everyone, my name is Jessie. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the 20 books I must read in 2020. So I did this last year where I picked 19 books I had to read in 2019 and I accomplished it, and it was so great because I got through a lot of those backlist titles that have been on my TBR forever. So I'm trying to do a similar thing this year. So starting with a bunch of like sequels or finishers to a series that I just need to complete. So book one is going to be Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff, the third and final book to the Nevernight Chronicles. I love this series. I actually loved God's Grave even more than Nevernight, which I was surprised about. So now I'm super excited to read Dark Dawn. I've heard mixed reviews on this one, so I'm a little bit nervous, but nevertheless, still excited to wrap up this series and see if I like it. I hope J. Kristoff does me a right. Next book is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, which I've had on my shelf for a while now and have just kept putting off. So this is definitely a must read this year to just finish that Throne of Glass series and say it's complete. I've liked it enough overall to continue on with the series. I think my least favorite was Empire of Storms, unfortunately, so I think that's probably why I haven't gotten to Kingdom of Ash yet, but nevertheless, still gonna do it, still gonna complete it, and I am excited to get to it. It's just a little bit of a beast, so we'll get there. The next series, sequel, whatever, is Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson, which is the second book in the Dance of Thieves duology. Is that what it's called? This is like the companion series to the Remnant Chronicles, starting with the Kiss of Deception. So I liked Dance of Thieves quite a bit. I don't know that I remembered that much about it though, so I'm a little bit nervous going into this book. Hopefully once I start reading it, I'll remember and pick things back up. So excited for this one and excited to just conclude this duology. The last of the sequels slash series completers is The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden, which is the second book in the Bear and the Nightingale series. Is that what it's called? I don't know. I love this series. The Bear and the Nightingale was great. It was very atmospheric. It felt like a fairy tale. It was based on Russian folklore, and so I'm really excited for The Girl in the Tower. I'd like to get to it before the spring because this feels very wintry in my opinion, so definitely gonna get to this one soon. Okay, and then a couple of other like fantasy books that have just been on my TBR for the longest time that I just need to pick up and read. The first being Vengeance Road by Erin Bowman. I don't know much about this. I know that it's a Western young adult fantasy, so that sounded very intriguing to me, and I haven't heard a lot about this because I think it's just old now. I don't know when this was first published. 2015, so it's not that old, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. So I'm curious. I don't think I've ever read a Western fantasy, so kind of intrigued. Another one is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I have read all of V.E. Schwab's adult titles, but I have not read any of her young adult titles, so this one has been on the list for a very long time, so I'm finally getting around to it. And then the other one is Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon McGuire, which is all over BookTube, and I've heard so many great things about this portal fantasy, about these children who go to these fantasy worlds and come back and have to go to kind of this home for these peculiar children that have traveled to other worlds and need to now cope with the real world. Sounds so good. These are super short. I don't know why I haven't gotten to this series yet, but I'm very excited to see what all the hype is about. And then another young adult fantasy that's been on the list forever is Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. I have had this on my list for probably 3 years now, so it's about time I finally get around to reading this series, and I'm trying to get through all of the Brandon Sanderson books, so definitely have to read Steelheart this year. Another goal of mine has been to focus more on adult fantasy slash sci-fi this year, and so a lot of these titles are going to be adult fantasy titles that I have never read and are so popular, so hyped that I finally need to get around to reading. The first being probably what's most popular, and that is The Eye of the World, which is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. This is a humongous series, but I feel like it is just the epitome of adult fantasy. If you want to consider yourself a fantasy reader, I feel like you have to have read Wheel of Time. So it's about time I finally read it. The other book is The Black Prism by Brent Weeks, which again, I've heard so many awesome things about. Another pretty big adult fantasy series that's now complete. So I feel like now I can start it and know that at least I can finish it, unlike Game of Thrones. Thanks a lot, George R.R. Martin. Hopefully we get Winds of Winter this year. Don't hold your breath though. And then another one that's more sci-fi that's been on my list forever is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This one I don't know much about. I think it's about these dormant, like big giant robots that come to life. I don't even know. don't take that to heart. But this one has been on my TBR for a very long time and I've heard a lot of great things. So I'm very excited to read this series. And then another one is Foundry Side, which is a newer adult fantasy title. I believe it came out last year or the year before by Robert Jackson Bennett. And again, heard great things, so can't wait to read this one. And then a couple of other titles is Uprooted by Naomi Novak, which I've had on my TBR since the day it came out, and I have not read it yet, and I feel like everyone loves Uprooted and Spinning Silver, so definitely want to read Uprooted this year. I've heard it's very fairy tale-like, so I'm excited to see what the hype is all about on that one. And then The Last Wish, which is the first kind of short story collection in the Witcher series, and I'm sure you've heard of The Witcher by now because of the new Netflix show. So I have actually only watched the first 2 episodes in the Witcher TV show because I decided that I wanted to read the books first before watching the rest of it so that I really can appreciate it more, because I found that while I was watching the TV show, I had no prior knowledge of this video game or this book series, so I was very lost, and I just wanted to kind of read the books, make sure I appreciate it to its fullest capacity. And then of course The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which I've kept putting off because the 3rd book in this series has not been announced yet. No release date has been set, and I really, after reading Game of Thrones, I'm really not looking to start a series that it's never going to finish. I hope Patrick Rothfuss finishes it soon, but everyone keeps talking about how amazing this book is, so I think I'm just finally gonna give in and read The Name of the Wind to see just what all of this talk and this hype is about. And then the last adult fantasy series that I'm looking to start is Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, which again is another very popular series. Heard a ton about it. Heard it has awesome kick-ass assassin nuns in it, which sounds great. Yes, I'll take all of that. So definitely want to read this book series this year as well. Okay, and then the last 3 I have are just kind of random. The first being Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I read Little Fires Everywhere by this author, and I really, really enjoyed that novel. So I just want to pick up her other book to see if I like it as much as Little Fires Everywhere. I've heard this is good. It has great reviews on Goodreads, so I think it's going to be just a hard-hitting contemporary, which I always like, so we'll see if I like this as much as Little Fires Everywhere. The other is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, which I've just had, again, on my TBR for like 4 years now. It's just been too long, and everyone knows what this series is about. It's about the woman who meets this man who comes from this really, really rich Asian family that she had no idea about. So this sounds great. The movie looked great. I haven't seen it yet. I don't want to see it until I read the book. So very excited to see if I like this as much as everyone else. And then the last book, certainly not least, is Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is Another book by the same author who wrote Dark Matter, which is one of my favorite books of all time, and this sounds just as mind-bending and thrilling as Dark Matter did, so excited to read Recursion. Editing Jessie here to tell you that I forgot one. Are you surprised? I'm not surprised. The one that I forgot is The Alice Network by Kate Quinn, which is a historical fiction that I believe follows two main characters, one in World War I and one in World War II. And then I've just had this on my TBR forever, and it sounded very like Nightingale-esque, which I love the Nightingale. So this is the final 20th book I must read in 2020. So I think that, I hope, was all 20 of the books that are on my must-read in 2020 list. I'm very excited to get to all of these. Do you see any that are some of your favorites? Definitely comment those down below. And do you have any books that you feel like you have to get to this year, that you have to finish because they've been on your TBR for so long, or you're just so excited about them? Let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And until next time, bye!